Insider, and you are watching the Shaun Attwood channel. Tonight, I am joined by the incredible Professor Hamamoto. Thank you so much for joining us.
Ms. Lunfarrow, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really nice to meet you. I've enjoyed your work. You bring a lot of original, especially female energy to this discussion that's so important. So thank you very much for your efforts in that
I
department.
feel like I'm in the presence of one of the smartest minds I've ever spoken to. So no pressure for me tonight. And obviously, guys, do drop questions in the chat. I will get it up on the side and be looking at that as we go. I wanted to start by asking you. So we've seen in the news that Diddy has asked for a pardon, as has Ghislaine Maxwell. And it just sends chills down my spine because you think, here we go again. One rule for them, one rule for us.
Absolutely. That's the joke. Just us means just for us. And I mean, I hate to admit this, but I wasn't surprised in either case. Ghislaine Maxwell had one foot out the prison already. We've been prepped for that. And we know that based on our previous conversations, that Shaun John Combs is connected at the highest level of government, Wall Street, and the economy. So he will skate. And that's what I pronounced at the very outset. All those months ago, I think the trial lasted for a full 8 weeks. And Donald J. Trump is connected at the highest reaches. It seems irrefutably correct that he is connected to this larger system, not just by the sort of the waffling and outright evasiveness of his actions. I'm talking about President Trump, but the communal intelligence that we are all sharing amongst the public, completely sidestepping legacy media and indie media to come to our conclusions, which seems to be trending towards Trump is involved at some level. We don't know the specifics of it, but you know what? It makes sense, and I'll get to this when we talk about the Charlie Kirk assassination. It makes sense because who is Donald Trump? He's a casino man. He's the king of Atlantic City. He's at the art of the deal. And if you want to be at the center of any deal, then you got to be mobbed up. That makes Shaun John Combs looks like a little corner, a corner crack dealer or dope dealer, on that level. That's where he really is. But he started to believe in his own hype. Now, once the black criminal class, and I hate to focus on their ethnicity, but I've written a book about the Asian criminal class, the yellow. And in America, Asian includes Chinese, South Korean. I know in Britain, Asian means either South Asian or Middle Eastern, but in the U.S. setting, it includes Asian in general. All the different groups have their own style of criminality, and the big failing of African American or Black, as I prefer it, criminality is that they're way too obvious about it. They have to pull back, and I'm just giving them hints for the ones that are coming up after P Diddy, because all the groups have them. They have to start dressing in sort of Savile Row type, just like Wall Street bankers. Now, the Jewish criminal underclass figured this out a generation ago. Lou Wasserman, who was the head of MCA, and he worked for a medical doctor by the name of Dr. Jules Stein. He was an ophthalmologist, but he was also a Jewish mafia kingpin. His lieutenant, Lou Wasserman, who started out as one of these entertainment moguls or fixers, and it's all mobbed up, right? And they were known for their cigar chomping, loud suits. But he said, no, we're going to change our image. We're going to think Yiddish, but dress British. And that made them mainstream. And pretty soon, Lou Wasserman and his wife, Edie Wasserman, were known as Mr. and Mrs. Hollywood. They had a direct line to the American political establishment, the Democratic Party in specific. So my advice to P. Diddy, because he will get out, I'm making the prediction right now, he's going to buy his way out. My prediction is to go Ivy League, just stop the Cuban chains and all the blinging and all that stuff. Just cool it and wear Savile Row. You can still wear the bespoke suits, but tone it down, and then he'll be rehabilitated. All right. So the whole ethnic and the racial and the religious elements all kind of come together when we're talking about high-level criminality, which also includes Charlie Kirk, because his constituency are supposedly white Christian conservatives, right? That was what that big coming out party was, or not coming out party, but the memorial service, right? So I wanted, if I could, ease into a sort of a discussion. I want to present a couple of hypotheses about the Charlie Kirk assassination. And as I've taken,
yeah,
okay?
because I've been anything you want to talk about. I'm fascinated by your mind, and I know that the viewers are. But I've been following the Candice Owens messages that she alleges were from Charlie, and she's been dropping them. And every night there's something new that she claims has happened. What do you make of this?
I've been following that as well. I've been watching, despite my comments casting aspersions on Candace Owens, put it lightly. I do follow her work. I look at everybody as much as I can. The texts are real. They're subject to interpretation, but I will stick to my earlier observation, is that she's also an important element of the drama, of the theater, the performance aspect of what I refer to as Operation Charlie Kirk, all in caps, just like the CIA put MK Ultra, Project Mockingbird, Phoenix. It's always in caps. So I put Operation Charlie Kirk, all in caps. She's an integral element of it, and her faction, and it's a warring. It's not a civil war. There's multiple factions involved, but her particular faction is the Roman Catholic Church. They want a piece of the action, right? Because they are a large-scale global criminal enterprise like the other groups, right? And we have to accept the fact that it's not one singular group, because I know that the discussion right now, it's about Israel and it's about Jews. But historically, we're talking about competing interests. Now, that works to our benefit. The people who haven't chosen or aren't in a certain partisan divide, we can negotiate within the middle, the little ruptures between the different factions. And we could use that to our advantage by getting them to fight amongst each other and neutralizing them so the everyday people can go about our business. And there's a famous classic film of Japanese cinema. It's called Yojimbo, starring Mifune Toshiro. And it's about a guy who is a hired bodyguard, Yojimbo, and he's a masterless warrior, samurai, right? And he hires himself to two different factions in a village. And he goes from one to the other, and he gives them disinformation and misleading. This is what I do. This is my own game plan. And then I get them to fight amongst each other. They neutralize each other. And then after they're all dead, the village gets to just live, the villagers get to live their life like normal. So that's called Yojimbo strategy. It's a ninja strategy. And it's very important The ninja strategy is very important as a solution to what seems like these persistent problems of politics, because the tendency is for people to follow personalities and factions and teams, especially in American culture. We're very sports oriented teams. We like to bet on the winner, and we're into celebrities and individuals. It could be Charlie Kirk, it could be Candace Owens, it could be Shaun Combs, whoever, it could be Ghislaine Maxwell, whoever it is. We have to turn inward and look at ourselves as being the principal actors in this society. So, with that being said, I have two simple hypotheses, and they relate to each other. And I owe it to one of your ancestors, William of Ockham. During the medieval period, he came up with this idea of Occam's razor, right? You take a complex situation and you parse it down, you slice it down to its simplest. And I'm also inspired by the Zen Buddhist aphorism, which is first thought, best thought, right? Whatever hits your gut, whatever simple explains the most complex phenomenon. In this case, we're talking about Operation Charlie Kirk. So hypothesis one, and this is going to either please or outrage the audience. I don't know which, but I'm saying that the Charlie Kirk assassination, the murder, is no more, well, it is more than that, but it's primarily a simple resolution of a business dispute. It's a business dispute in the guise of an ideological conflict. And think about it, that's a really good cover. You say, oh, it's about the Israeli influence in American politics. It's about the moral majority versus the secular society in America. So there's this roiling, and it's all being pushed by the indie as well as the legacy media, that there's just all this conflict of ideological tendencies within the society. But I'm saying I'm reducing it to its simplest. It is a business resolution that took place in now. That's not to trivialize what he represents, Charlie Kirk, and some of the secondary and tertiary meanings of it, but it was really based upon the fact that Charlie Kirk, there's an expression in Spanish, it's called plata o plomo. And this has been written about by people in the Harvard Business School, right? And it comes from the Spanish drug lord trade. People, we all know the famed drug lords that have passed through El Chapo and all the way down. But the notion is that you are offered silver, plata, or you get the lead. Plata, silver, and plomo is lead. So you're given that offer. In the Godfather movie, it's called the offer you can't refuse. So Charlie Kirk was offered the plata. He turned it down. He refused the offer. So he was given the lead. That's business. That's pure Godfather, drug lord, plata o plomo business decision. All right. So what is at stake here?
Go ahead,
so
please. When you say he turned it down, is that the 150 million we're hearing, or is that he was going up against his donors? And how does his wife fit into this as well?
Oh my gosh, Erica Kirk, that's another hour-long story. And I did do a workup on her in my previous
We're
talk.
in no rush, Professor.
Oh, okay. All right. You asked for it. First of all, let me take a quick overview of his financials. This kind of surprised me. His net worth is $12 million US dollars, 12 million. In other sources, it says 14, but he's wealthy. He's in the upper 0.0 0% or 0.1%. In addition to that, he owned close to a $5 million estate near Phoenix. That's where you talked about his wife, the Lundva, I think was they come from, they're Swedish extraction. They're from the Phoenix area, which is completely Pentagon run, Raytheon, those types of companies in the American Southwest. That's where Jeffrey Epstein had set up business himself with the Zorro Ranch, the Phoenix. But the Phoenix area, he had a $5 million estate there. He had an apartment, probably for his girlfriends, who knows. He had a beachside condominium on Florida's Gulf Coast. Right, that's the Gold Coast. That's where all the people like Donald Trump live. So he was hooked in. And my hypothesis is that he was given an offer by certain criminal organizations and said, Charlie, we gave you all this money to get you started. We started you out at $27,000 a year in 2016. And by 2021, you were making $400,000 a year. We gave you the money. We made you what you are. You were just an 18-year-old twerp with no direction in life. We built you up. We want a good part of Turning Point USA. We're going to own some of that. You're going to kick it to us. Now, there are historical precedents for this. Joseph P. Kennedy bought the election for his son, John F. Kennedy, by doing a deal with the Illinois, specifically the Chicago mob. We all know the story, Sam Giancana, and he double-crossed them. Not only did they double-cross them, but they put little Bobby Kennedy on the mafia to put them out of it. That was the ultimate double cross. So JFK, on a purely pragmatic business level, had to die. So this is what I'm looking at, the history and the patterns and how this operates in the mafia society, and the understanding American culture, politics, and the economy through the lens of organized crime is one of the central elements of my pedagogy, if you will. That's how I view the world. And it's universal. It includes the black people like Sean John Combs, the yellows, Jews, whoever, Arabs, whoever you want to pick. Gangsters make the world go around. And the rest of it's window dressing. Yes, you were going to say.
The whole thing is so strange as well. You know, we hear when it happened, there was someone that fell to the ground and pretended that they'd shot him. And then the whole story that's come out, I think, you know, one thing Candace Owens has done very well is put the spotlight on it, because, sorry, the mainstream media are, you know, onto the next story. But obviously we've got questions. And you know, even from the photo card, someone from Turning Point going to calmly get it after Charlie was shot and then walking away. And all of these things, you know, if someone had done this and it was truly a lone wolf or whoever, the FBI would be, well, I say would be all over it, but I have no trust in any policing force. So, you know, who knows? But the whole thing about this is just so crazy. And then we're just left here like, move along now, nothing to see, nothing to see. And it's then up to people like yourself and Candice to actually shed light on these areas, because we've not got a clue what's going on, really, if we were following the lead from people in authority.
Well, this is where our creative imagination comes into play here. This is where Chat GPT and Grok will never be able to outdo us, because we have the infinite generativity of human creativity at our disposal. It's a God-given gift, Right. So if you accept the hypothesis one, that the Charlie Cook assassination was just an old-fashioned extortion scheme carried out to its ultimate, then you might accept the secondary hypothesis that I have, that Operation Charlie Kirk was proof of concept of lethal autonomous weapons systems. Wrap your mind around that phrase, lethal autonomous
Break it down for
weapon.
us again, Professor.
Pardon me?
Break it down for us again.
Well, according to NATO and Pentagon military doctrine, we are at the 7th stage revolution in military matters, 7th generation military warfare. And the key to that are these lethal autonomous weapons. And we know them generically, for example, as drones. They're being used heavily already in battle in Ukraine, right? Against the Russian T-60 tanks, they're taking them out. Now, it stands to reason that these innovations in autonomous weapons could be deployed in a proof of concept demonstration at Utah Valley College against Charlie Kirk. That's why all these guys who are in special forces with the tattooed sleeves, who are talking about 38 caliber, 308 caliber rifle and ballistics and the angle of entry wounds. Oh, he was shot from the back. He was shot from the bottom tunnel. That's why they're way off base. They're fighting the last war. They were in Afghanistan fighting kinetic wars. We are in the 7th stage revolution, and what we saw, this is a hypothesis. I have no proof of this time, but I'm encouraging people to start reconceptualizing what really took place in the assassination and get away from the boom boom kinetic warfare model and look at directed energy weapons as possibly being used in the assassination of Charlie Kirk. So that's my second most important hypothesis. One, it was a gangland hit of an extortion racket, just like we saw in the assassination of JFK. And secondly, it was proof of concept of this new stage of warfare that's going to be targeting individuals instead of blowing up a lot of innocent civilians and getting the public turned against a certain group. It could be the Students for Democratic Society. It could be the Irish Republican Army. It could be Hamas, whoever it is. That doesn't really sit well with the general public when you blow up people who are just minding their own business. But if you have precision, autonomous, lethal weapons, we know them generically as directed energy weapons, then you might have something. You take out this individual, Charlie Kirk, and there's no forensic evidence of it. What do you think of that?
I mean, when I saw the news about Charlie Kirk, what I thought it was a warning to a lot of other people as well. Like, for example, in the UK, people like Tommy Robinson. And I thought it was a very clear message, fall in line, people, because and who is at the top, I don't know. But I know that, people that ruffle feathers don't seem to live long lives a lot of the time. And so he was inconvenient to a lot of people, was Charlie Kirk.
He was inconvenient, but that strategy didn't seem to work because Tommy Robinson was the centerpiece of the most massive public demonstration in modern British history. This is in London. It's just a couple of weeks ago, right?
I was there.
Oh, you were there? Please.
Yeah, I was presenting.
I've been meaning to ask Shaun about it, but tell me what it was like. What was the energy like?
Oh, it was amazing. It was unbelievable. It was the most it was the safest I've ever felt in London. The energy was wonderful and it made me full of hope. And then the day after, I just felt really sad that then you see how it's all being weaponized. And sometimes when you see the enormity of how corrupt the mainstream media is, it does really affect you, because you feel this small in a huge world. But then days like Unite the Kingdom, you think, this is amazing. Like, you all work for us. We, the people, are in charge, but we often forget we are in charge.
So you have a real time, in person, not a Zoom event
Yeah.
gathering. And London is great. It has all these great public spaces that are like custom built for the will of the people to be demonstrated. And same with Washington, D.C. It has all these incredible arcades and plazas. Now, of course, we had January 6th that said, no, you're not going to do this, or we're going to arrest you if you come out here. But that's also the risk you run. And in fact, what I'm reading about and seeing in a lot of really incredible independent presentations is that the Charlie Kirk Memorial event, which had about 60,000 people in Arizona, again, the Phoenix area, was geofenced. And it was, are you familiar with the term geofencing with the cell phones?
Yeah.
They can track you and get your data. It was geofenced, and it was done by TPUSA. And reportedly, that data was sold to Israeli intelligence. And they said, well, it's just for marketing purposes. But they have all your data.
Oh, yeah. There's always an answer, isn't there? They've always got an answer for everything. You know, when corruption is called out, it's, oh, no, this is common practice. We always collect data in this way.
Right. There's a solution to that. Don't carry your cell phone, or don't use a so-called smartphone at all if you can avoid it. And if you do carry it in public, you can get a little sleeve. It's, based on the Faraday cage, and just foil them in this just very primitive ways of frustrating these individuals, right? But the point is that these organizations do not give up in trying to maintain their control of the population. And that's only because we are, as you noted earlier, because we are so popular. When we get together and we see other millions of other people on the same track, either in person or online, then that's cause for worry amongst these high-level mobsters. And they do go down eventually, by and by. I don't know what the outcome of the Comey indictment will be. Maybe he'll be given a token sentence, but at least this is a first step. And it was only done through independent pressure applied to the government system. Of course, he had a faction against him that was willing to say, yeah, we got to take him out of business.
Yeah.
Comey, and his daughter too, Maureen Comey, who was one of the prosecutors of the Diddy trial. And as soon as they fired her too. They moved her out of the way. Right. So this
fired her after Diddy's case, though.
I'm sorry?
They fired her after Diddy's case, didn't they? You know, they let her just pretend to get busy and then fired her.
Right. And if you want to look at the Comey family, both James Comey and his daughter, that's like an extension of Irish mafioso type activity. Right. Whitey Bulger out of Boston area, one of the most prominent criminals ever in American history. And eventually he was found. He was hiding out in Los Angeles, in plain view in Santa Monica, California. And he was also, by the way, subjected involuntarily to LSD experimentation while he was doing prison. But he was part of the old guard Irish mafia that would go to businessmen, people sort of like a Charlie Kirk type guy, invest some money in their little restaurant, their store, or whatever, and then they'd come back later and say, okay, you have a new partner. That's me. All right. That's where the Comeys come from, if you want to look at it. I mean, we've all seen the Godfather trilogy, right? Francis Ford Coppola. That is the template. That's the model, right? And then after they make their nut, right? They make their money. By the way, Whitey Bulger's brother was, I think, a former president of the University of Massachusetts. I mean, he was a high-level educator. So they had the whole spectrum covered, and some of them went to Harvard Law School, and they became James Comey, or they became Maureen Comey, right? Again, I think we have to look at these situations as as people talk about civil war. No, this is gang warfare at a very elemental level. The other stuff is just sort of chaff, I would say.
And how do you think how does Erica fit into this then?
All right. She's a beauty queen. We're talking about I forgot her maiden name, Luntva, I believe, but I'll call her Erica Kirk. She started as a beauty queen. She was matched with Charlie Kirk, right? That's how it works at this level, right? Mark Zuckerberg is matched with Priscilla Chen, Dr. Priscilla Chen. They met at Harvard. There's a whole sort of romantic comedy, cute meat formula that these people tend to have, right? But they're matched. Charlie Kirk is an 18-year-old virgin with nowhere to go, said, we're going to set you up with a beauty queen. Her name's Erica. Here's a picture. What do you think? Wow, that's wonderful. We're going to start you off at $27,000, but we'll put you up in the six figures pretty soon, and you're going to own a giant house. She says, yeah, where do I sign? All right, that's her story too. Her mother comes from the intelligence world. This is all over the interweb now. It's all over X. But you're going to have to, researchers, you're going to have to verify that for yourself. I'm just relaying some of the information that's already circulating. So she comes out of Department of Homeland Security. And by her own words, Erica Kirk said that's why she moved to the Phoenix area from the Midwest so she could work for her new government job, which was DHS. And it's around the same time, you want to look at the timeline, where these fusion centers, so-called, were being set up all over the country. And this is a combination of local, state of Arizona, and federal law enforcement used not against terrorism, which is what they sold it to the public on, right? They have to do a few bombings and terror threats and all that to sell it to the frightened American public to vote it in, but it's really for surveillance of the general population. That's her mama. I think her name is Lori, Lori. And further on, and this is where the Candace Owens connection comes in, they're all supporters of the local diocese or parish, Roman Catholic. Erica Kirk herself, or Luntva, went to a preparatory school that was Jesuit run. She also went to a Jesuit college for a time. And then she took a turn to the American heartland, the Southern Baptist constituency that Ronald Reagan and George Bush wanted to capture. And she went over to Lynchburg, Virginia, and got a master's degree at Liberty University. And that's where it intersects with the the Baptist so-called moral majority of Jerry Falwell, which both parties were coveting to bring in to amass more political power and to strengthen their political base. This was happening during the Reagan-Bush period, the era that's idealized by people like Dinesh D'Souza, who's a Reagan man to the day he dies. But I lived through that, and I knew Thatcher was in power in Britain at the same time, just to give you an idea. It was a whole reworking of the world societies into the globalist model, right? And in order to do that, the American political class had to bring in Jerry Falwell of the Moral Majority. That's the name of his organization. And that's where Erica Kirk got her master's degree, into the fold. Now, part and parcel with the connection with Liberty University, Jerry Falwell, and the related conservative religious, they call them faith-based organizations. Going in with that is, guess what? An uncritical embrace of the state of the Likudniks of Israel. I'm not going to say Israel because most Israelis are anti-Likudnik and they hate Benjamin Netanyahu. So I say Israeli Likudniks. This is the coalition that's taken over the government. So that's Jerry Falwell. And guess what? He was given an offer that you can't refuse. He was offered plata o plomo. We're talking about Reverend Jerry Falwell. And this was the Likudniks who came in through one of their assets. His name is Benjamin Netanyahu. Right? And Netanyahu is not an Israeli. He's an American. Listen to him talk. You've seen enough American movies. That's a Philadelphia Jewish accent. He's a Philadelphia Jew. He's a stalker. That's a Yiddish word. A stalker is a thug. He's a punk.
I mean, you're blowing my mind. All of this information as well.
This is cultural forensics at work.
I mean, you would be we have a program called Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And you get to call one person. I'm like, you, Professor, you would be the only person I'd be calling for anything. Do you think, did MK Ultra, in terms of, setting people up with other people and conditioning people, I guess, does MK Ultra play a role within this? Because otherwise, because obviously Charlie didn't behave as those higher up wanted him to behave, and then he was unalived.
Yeah. Well, I think the MK Ultra, and more specifically Project Artichoke, right, came into play when they get these patsies running around on the roof, or like Thomas Crook shooting at President Donald Trump. And of course, he's taken out as well. That's part of the deal. They assassinate the shooter, and then the person who shot the assassin gets killed all the way down the line. But those guys are part of some sort of behavioral conditioning program. Their parents are often from the so-called mental health field. They're psychotherapists who donated their own children into these programs. And this has already been workshopped through the intelligence. Supposedly they were ended sometime in the early 70s, but they're still there. And in fact, they're more pervasive than ever. And their focal point is at the K through 12, the schools, and especially at the universities, with the so-called mental health mafia feeding all these young people hallucinogenic drugs in the guise of antidepressants, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Plus, they're playing the video games, especially the boys are playing with these called stealth games, single shooter games. Indeed, if you want to do a full workup on the Charlie Kirk assassination, those FBI agents, who are mostly on average in their 40s, need to talk to 12 and 13-year-old boys about the whole stealth video game world, because that's where the assassins are being recruited and trained and automatized. So yeah, it's the traditional so-called MK Ultra, Artichoke, and all that. But the video games, I think, is the primary entry point for creating the new generation of assassins. It's part of the Assassin's Creed. And by the way, all these video games, guess where they were workshopped? And this is the perspective that I bring into it. Most of this technology comes from the yellow world. It comes from the Asian world. The original stealth games were video games that were perfected by Japanese behavioral scientists. Wow. All the way from Pong to Sega and Nintendo. That's all part of you call it mind control, part of the mind control intake process. And that's how they're operating. But your 40-year-old mid-career people at the FBI, they think that they're the teenage boy that they're at home who's just playing video games all day and is sullen and doesn't want to leave the basement, they think he's wasting his life away. No, he's training for the 7th generation military warfare. That's what these guys are doing. He'll be ready to go out into the Sonoran Desert, sitting in an air-conditioned trailer and killing people with his joystick, with his controller, 15,000 miles away. Right. So it's more than the traditional MK Ultra framework that we're talking about. We have to talk to our teenage boys at home and ask them, well, what is this game about? What is Assassin's Creed? What's the gameplay here? What you just ask them, and you know what? They'll just start to nerd out on you, and they'll tell you everything you want to know, and you will be exposed to a most fascinating universe that you never knew existed, but it's hidden in plain sight. And I learned this from my students at the university, and I'm asking them these questions because I'm not in the video game world. I'm still in the kinetic world. They've already made the crossover into the video world, the VR world. So I asked them, where'd you get all this information? They said, well, we get them we get the new information from the incoming freshmen, because it's the teenagers who are like 12 or 13 who are on the cutting edge of this whole experience. And if you want to look at the manufacturers, the creators of these games, I'm sure if you want to dig into it, any enterprising researcher out there, you'll probably find out that they are directly connected to intelligence, whether it's Second Life in San Francisco or Ubisoft in Montreal. They're all intelligence operations. You can almost bank on it. They probably have a lot of pass-throughs, but at bottom, they're working for the Pentagon. They're working for NATO.
It's so interesting you say this, because I have said for a long time that I think mind control and MK Ultra and conditioning is done very much through mainstream media, because I used to be in mainstream media, and I know how you become so indoctrinated into it, and then your tunnel vision it's scary. And then since coming out of it, you go, and it's like coming up for air, and you can breathe, and just you see things so differently, and it's very similar to the video games. And it's just really scary as well, trying to navigate this world, because I don't think at the time I knew I was being brainwashed. And I'm sure that, the teenagers playing the video games and the people being groomed to become the next assassins don't realize that that's what's happening.
You know what? If the middle-aged guys at the FBI or law enforcement wanted to do some real digital forensic analysis, they would look at the gaming habits of Thomas Crooks and this other character who was at UVU, and you'll see a very similar pattern. They're incessant online gamer, and they're part of a community too. And they nerd out about it. They have their own Reddit type fora where they can talk about the pros and cons of this particular stealth game versus that one. And it's all going beneath our radar because we were, at least myself, I grew up on network television and then cable. I was still living in the analog kinetic world. The new ones, Gen Z, they are in a total immersive environment. And they're right. They think people like me are inept, obsolete, and need to be moved out of the way. And Mark Zuckerberg says, yeah, we agree. We have a pair of glasses just for you. You can wear them around town. You belong to us. So I think this is the new criminological concept that we can all explore. We're not going to ask law enforcement to sign off on this. Just everyday people who are watching this show, and hopefully some teenagers, 12, 13-year-olds, are watching this and say, hey, I can make a career out of this. I can become my own digital video game forensic scientist, and I don't even need to go to college, because in college, you're just going to teach you GLBTQ and DEI and stuff you full of so-called antidepressants and try to turn you out into the whole corporate culture, which is a dead end in itself. I can be my own tutor. So there's hope here. And it's coming from an overlooked resource, Generation Z.
It's so scary when you think about it, because actually, how long before we're not, almost before children don't know how to talk? And I know that sounds extreme, but if they are living in a world that doesn't exist, then we already know that a lot of their handwriting, children's handwriting has gone completely downhill, and they can type and they can text, but they can't spell properly, they can't write properly. And actually, when we're not using these muscles in our brain and learning all of this, it's really scary, because we then become like floppy rag dolls that are subservient to control.
Well, absolutely. There's an epidemic at the colleges and university of papers that show all the telltale signs of Chat GPT. Now, that's the bad news. The worst news is that their professors are doing the same thing. There's a website called Retraction Watch, and there's always these papers done by these incredibly productive researchers at MIT or Harvard or and they're all Chat GPT material. So and I think that was deliberate. The whole effort was to discredit the entire enterprise of thought, of research.
Yeah. It's there's someone I follow on Instagram, Professor, and they were writing these really, really long posts. And I was thinking, I just don't know where they're getting the time in the day, because they do a lot of presenting. And then I saw it, and it was Chat GPT. And I think that's really dangerous when you make your name as someone that gives opinions and people trust. And it's also like teachers using it, and then you're hiding behind this AI, pretending it's you.
Well, you know what? There's a dark secret in the world of indie media. A lot of those people who we worship, not me, but the people who are critical of me for calling these people out, they get most of the material from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
It's all there. It's all being spoon fed to us. So we are also being psyoped by the people who are telling us that we're victims of psyops. How's that?
But AI, actually, like ChatGPT and Grok, when I do my research, I still do it by hand. I've got like paper everywhere, and I like to draw things from different sites. And you see how AI is being weaponized against us, because if you ask about controversial figures, the AI will not recognize primary sources outside of mainstream media, and that is criminal.
Yeah. Now we can dig them out ourselves, which is what I do, and I dig them up more upstream. I dig out the mostly academic papers that are way upstream from where it winds up into media, and I put them on my Patreon site so people get the original material. But I am seeing more and more on YouTube entire programs or documentaries that are definitely their AI. All right. Now, the people who are watching you and me right now, that's not AI. That's not Chat GPT. This is live in person. We are not avatars. We're having a discussion. Yeah. Well, okay. I like your outfit, by the way. It's, very feline.
It's my favorite avatar outfit, Professor.
There you go. The leopard motif, if you came out with a monarch butterfly outfit, then I would be worried. But leopard
That'll
print
be
is
next
okay.
time.
Okay, yeah. Then we can just fly away into the metaverse. But that's why shows like this, discussions like this, are important, because if you look at our conversation and then go to TubeView and these obvious AI productions, or the people that I always make fun of, these comedians who are now pundits, then you can see the stark difference between information, knowledge, and synthesizing this into these AI productions, right? And the line is getting blurred more and more.
So what's next, Professor? And I'm scared to ask this because you talk about such big questions and then you connect the dots very, very clearly. And I'm scared at the way the world's going. But in terms of these, the Charlie Kirk being taken out, Diddy, will be out in no time. Who's next? Who do we need to be watching?
Well, I think you're going to have a false flag or a roll up of a yellow person. He's going to be like a Wall Street guy or someone in tech. It's going to be some sort of scandal, tech scandal or spy deal that's going to put the blame probably on a Chinese person, Chinese American. This is going to be in the United States. And the reason for that is because the people who are trying to defend the Lehudniks of Israel are already saying, hey, it's not us that are the problem. We got to look at the Chi-Coms, right? So the next group, and that's why I'm so ardent about putting in the yellow perspective, because historically we've always, in America, have always been the racial scapegoat for a lot of these disturbances and conflict within society, including being sent to concentration camps during World War II. All right, so this is part of my history, right? The American history. So I see that shaping up already. There's a representative from Florida, which is a heavy Hispanic or Latino population base. It's also the playground for wealthy people like Charlie Kirk and Donald Trump. This is talking about Florida. Her name is Paulina Luna. So she sounds like she's Latina, right? And it's very cool to be Latino because you're a brown minority person. But in truth, she's Jewish. She's a Jew. She's married to a Jew. So she has donned the sheepskin of a minority, and she's in the pocket of AIPAC. And she's going around now to all the shows, the Como show, all the network shows, and all to the the independent Republican conservative media, and says, you know what? Them Chinese, them sneaky Chinamen are taking down America. Not Israel, not AIPAC, not Benjamin Netanyahu, but them Chinamans. So Alex Jones going along, even J.B. Wells, all the retired generals who are in the conservative area, the Liberty Lobby, all of them, they all find common. And of course, who's going to benefit from it? AIPAC has taken the knife from their hand and put it into mine. So I've seen this happen before. I wrote a book about it. It's about yellow people on American television. We are always cast in this role on network television, if you even see us at all. And it's run by AIPAC people. It's run by people like Lou Wasserman. It's the historic Jewish mafia that runs this. And I said, we have to come up with our own system of media. So I know what I'm talking about. I can see what's happened. I've written about it on an academic level. And these people who control the scholarship, as well as the media firmament and your representative Paulina Luna, these types of people, they have come to me and they offered me plata o plomo myself at my little small level. All right. They try to bring me in. They invited me to the Annenberg School of Social Communication at the University of Southern California. Says, we want you to be one of our boys. But you got to kind of soft pedal the Jewish mafia, Lou Wasserman, MCA, Dr. Julestein connection. I also taught at UCLA School of Film and Television. It's all AIPAC run. All right. So they said, well, we can't control this guy. Try to bring him in. And I said, sorry, you're going to have to give me the lead if you can find me, because I'm not taking the silver. I'm not going to sell out my people. I'm not going to sell out the American people. I'm going to write about it and expose your ass. But I'm also going to talk about the yellow people who they're on the come up. That's why you don't see us except on the Shaun Attwood show. You will not see me on Megyn Kelly, not Candace Owens, none of these shows. Because there's only because they're scared. They're scared of me. Not me, but of the whole yellow world. It's China, I mean, it's Japan, it's South Korea. And for those of you who haven't been paying attention, where is the economic growth and all these technologies like these cool video games and electron? Where's all and the whole hip hop deal that comes from Japanese electronics and music, Akai, Yamaha? Where's it all coming from? And how come that's not on movies? Why is that not on Netflix? Why is it not on TV? Because it's APAC controlled.
It's interesting as well, Professor, because I've spent 20 years in the media, that's the kind of first place I look at things from. And you always see that Chinese people, for example, they get such bad press in terms of, like you say, scapegoat, but it's Chinese spy, hacking. It's, all of these really damaging stereotypes. They're all wheeled out. And it seems to be, we have Black Lives Matter or, Black History Month and all of these areas of civilization that people think are minorities. But actually, I feel strange referring to Chinese and Japanese as yellow. Are you telling me that's okay? Because I wouldn't normally do that.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's the term that I have adopted because I've rejected Asian America is a government designation, and I refuse to be reduced to a census category. And yellow is more. It's like black people. The black militants refer to themselves as black, not African Americans, but black. So I say yellow. So please feel free. I would be honored if you referred to me and my people as yellow people.
So yellow people though are it's almost like you're all contained, stay over there. We and all of these minorities, we have it in England. There's a big focus on Muslims and then not if you're Jewish and Christian, forget it. But and all of this, I feel like the groups that are being over amplified don't need amplification, and actually it's still these really toxic stereotypes of yellow people that are just every so often flung out, and that's really hard for people to go up against because the narrative is just stuck in time and is toxic.
Well, you're absolutely right. And you come from the media world. In order to try to redress this exclusion or containment, right, into Chinatown or Japantown, whatever it is, I wrote this book called Countervision, saying that we are going to create our own sources of capital, of money, invested into media institutions and universities, and endow certain chairs at the university and put our people in it. Where do you think Alan Dershowitz gained his power? He had a Jewish organization, Zionist, who endowed a chair at Harvard Law School, and they said, Alan Dershowitz, you're our boy. We're going to put you in there. All right. So I'm just following the model of Lou Wasserman. And I have the resources now and able to execute my vision. Right. There's China. They've got tons of money. Right. They can invest in Yellow Man Studios and we can make our own productions, documentaries, films. I want to know the history of the first Chinatown in Western Europe, which was in Liverpool. And it makes sense because in Western, because it makes sense because it's a shipping port, right?
Yeah.
With the whole world. So they settled there, just like San Francisco has a huge China, New York, and we're talking about America. And it was like a global system 400 years ago. But who were the people who were making these movies of Dr. Fu Manchu? He's a Sax Rohmer was his pen name, and he was from London. And it was the traders, the opium dealers, the people, the China trade, both in Liverpool, London, and in the Northeast, Boston, right, in the United States of America. They were, and it wasn't illegal then. Opium was fully legal and unregulated. That's where they made their money, right? And by the way, it was Jewish opium traders from Baghdad who settled in Shanghai. Their name is Sassoon, and the other family name is Kaduri, who managed to hook up the Chinese population. They enslaved them to opium. So what did they do? The common tactic is to say, well, it's the Chinese people who are a bunch of opium addicts and they're derelict. They're a degraded civilization. They deserve colonization and exploitation. But it was Baghdadi Jews who created what the Chinese call the 100 years of humiliation, colonial humiliation. Of course, they were working with the East India Company, but they were the merchants of it. Just like the Sackler family currently of Purdue Pharma hooked Americans into opioids. It's the same business, but it's a gangster model, totally. So this is historically explains why these images occur, yes.
Sorry, it's a gangster model though, but where I guess it's the push-pull. So it will be, the one, maybe the yellow people in front at one point, and then it's going to go over to, the Jewish, and then it's kind of that constant push-pull.
Oh, yeah.
And it might be kind of pull-pull, but then it's always going to be like a seesaw, isn't it? It is that constant power struggle between different groups.
You know what? There is no final battle until you're dead. All the different groups are going to contend with each other for eternity. But for the little people like myself, our best bet is just to make sure that you will not be run over by these huge forces that you're not even recognizing. You don't realize that you're in the process of being expropriated. Before you know it, you're in a concentration camp, or you have been geo-fenced because you don't understand the larger history. But we are. The good news is the public is becoming really historically literate. The people who went to school formally are beginning to be deprogrammed. Says, God, I didn't learn anything there. I'm learning from YouTube what I didn't learn at college. And people in general are following shows like this, Shaun Attwood show and your show, and saying, wow, I didn't realize that there were people who were being held in such really oppressive situations, and they managed to break out of it, and they're sharing their stories with us, right? Directly, right? They don't have to go through Netflix. They just go right through on StreamYard or Zoom, whatever it is, and they tell the story. So that's the good news. I'm very optimistic about that. And once we recruit the Generation Z kids who are 13 years old playing video games and teach them the history and what they're doing, man, we have a huge resource, right? But that's what they do with Charlie Kirk. They tried to recruit him when he was 18 years old.
Yeah. And then there was that kind of like approved story, wasn't there? Like you're saying, that match made. Professor, I want to ask you, because sorry guys, this is quite a selfish question on my part, but it's just hearing about all these things is giving me anxiety. Like, to parents, what's your advice? Because obviously when we're talking about all of this brainwashing, if this is happening to us and we are completely either awake or asleep, and I'm quite sure everyone in the Shaun Attwood community is wide awake, but how do we protect our children without micromanaging and stopping them spreading their wings and experiencing life?
Well, one this might be a drastic solution for a lot of people, but one is to deschool them, whether that's physically removing them from a formal school environment or to create your own school.
Okay.
And just like the old cottage industries of just a couple generations ago, start teaching your kids their little skills like how to set up a microphone, how to do searches, how to use the keyboard, how to communicate online. These are valuable, useful trade craft that are being transmitted. And at the same time, you could teach them little research skills. Well, how do you find out about this, that, or the other topic? And what we found, at least in America, there was a long lockdown of schools during the crisis. The kids were kept out of school, and they were taught at home. They found out that they were learning a lot better rather than going to public school or private school. They just did it home. They can get their work done by noon, and for the rest of the day, they can go outside and play.
Yeah.
In the puddles in the water and amongst the trees and the birds and dig up worms and whatever else the children are supposed to be doing instead of learning regimentation in a stifling classroom. So that was one of the good results of the lockdown. As we said, people knew, number one, that their children didn't need to be in these types of schools. This is for the second. And also the parents learned that, hey, I really don't like going into the office, being around a bunch of people I don't really like to be around. So for the new generation, I have incredible hope. In America, we have Bobby Kennedy Jr. as the czar of health, who's talking about health, nutrition, ingredients in food. This is a good start. Physical education, if their kids are still in school, should be mandatory. Bring back musical education, all the stuff that we're taken out of the curriculum over the past 30 years. We can undo it, and we can reclaim our humanity. So that's the good news.
I mean, yeah, I probably won't set up a school, and I probably won't homeschool my children because they wouldn't listen to me. But I do think that actually going back to basics and seeing how everyone relies on the technology so much, but actually there's nothing like being outside, is there? And there's nothing like not being reliant on your phone or not being beholden to the shackles.
Yeah. No, I think that, for a K through 12, that is kindergarten through high school, a curriculum should be structured around being outside and digging around in the dirt. For example, there's a whole history of America, the American continent, that we didn't learn in school, but it's the Indian burial mounds. It's all these artifacts that have been uncovered of skeletons that are 8 feet high, and incredible sort of Neolithic history that's been kept out of the storybooks. I think the same thing is true for Britain. Why don't we look into the pre-modern past by just literally digging into the earth and having children become archaeological specialists, and they're learning their maths, they're learning history, biology. Just they're going to want to know about it, want to learn about it, because they're digging around in the dirt, finding arrowheads or artifacts or bones.
And so many as well lessons to be learned by doing things like that, patience and mindfulness and all of these things where actually you think, oh, we're conditioned to download an app. I'm paying $5.99 or $7 for that. And then when you disconnect from that, you realize, no, I've got everything I need in here. As cheesy as that sounds, it is actually very true. And we have to stop ourselves getting caught up in the tornado of becoming someone else's story, really.
Absolutely. That'll require parents to also unhook themselves from the Borg, so to speak, and to set an example for the children. If they're on the computer all the time and have their smartphones in their face, the children are going to follow suit. So the adults are going to go through a process of rehabilitation. Now, fortunately, I think it's still close enough to us that we can resume our humanity despite all the best efforts of the Apple Corporation, right? We're still close to it. And I think it could happen.
Professor, do you think, I just wanted to pick up on basically how we can trust no one. That depressing fact about, I guess the higher up the chain people go. Is there anyone that is prominent and in our news and in our face that can be trusted? Or are they all paid for, bought for, interconnected in some way and compromised?
Well, after they reach a certain level of prominence, then you have to assume that it's just not, that's what I do. I assume that they are a synthetic project or product, or they're supported in some fashion. Now, I'm not against people advertising or making money off their channels or monetizing their skills. I'm for it, all for it. But you have to, you meaning everybody, including myself, have to overcome this cult of celebrity that we've been inculcated towards. And I think that's of recent vintage. I mean, the whole idea of celebrity is relatively new in human history. So I think we can unlink ourselves pretty quickly. And by the way, that's why I like shows like, it's an awful show, but it's called TMZ in America. Harvey Levin.
As in TMZ?
Yes, because it's all propaganda, but they also take down a lot of celebrities.
No, Professor, you can't watch it. I'll tell you why.
Correct me.
And the cheek of me telling Professor Hamamoto.
No. You're talking about Harvey Levin, right? Harvey Levin.
I'm going to do it. Owned by Rupert Murdoch. Now, obviously.
Oh, yeah, of course.
But after the News of the World had to close, he just restarted it ultimately, but with TMZ. But the way in which they get their stories is so, it basically strips celebrities of their human rights. And whilst I don't like every celebrity, I still think that medical records, if a woman's going for, a procedure or anything like that, if we cross that line, then I think it's really dangerous. And actually, they're never transparent about it. And so when Michael Jackson died, was unalived, whatever, you want to call it, his family saw on TMZ before because it was leaked by they have so many informants in medical locations. And so I feel
they're right
like
at UCLA Medical.
Yeah, it's terrible, isn't it?
No, I'm not advocating that. I'm talking about their sort of general gossip shows, which talk about Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban splitting up. I take sort of a Schadenfreude delight in hearing these stories. I'm just thinking, well, gosh, I wish I was the divorce lawyer in that case. I'm going to make a lot of money. But I don't want to know about her recent gynecological examination. That's not what I'm saying. And I know about Rupert Murdoch, and I know about the phone hacking scandals in the British press. And I know that that's our friend Piers Morgan. That's what he was about, wasn't he? Wasn't about hacking people's private conversations and then making it into news. Now he's a celebrity. Huh?
Funny you should say that, Professor, because I called him out on Twitter and he blocked me. Which is funny because I didn't even follow him. But he edited he edited the Daily Mirror.
Right.
And for a considerable amount of time. And he claims that he didn't know that phone hacking was taking place when he was editing the paper. I mean, you'd think We're getting some good scoops.
No.
I wonder where it's coming from, or you're doing really well, journalist. How are you doing this? But no, but then our justice system. This is just my opinion, but is very much infiltrated by the Fabian Society, and it's all
Oh,
not
absolutely.
a
So
justice
far as
system.
Piers Morgan is concerned, and Rupert Murdoch, there's a British author who's written a couple of books on it, on this hacking scandal. I think his name is Davies, Nick Davies, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, who's and he was an insider, so he will say this is what I was being instructed to do, and they were able to pave over it like usual because they're in Ghislaine Maxwell level. They're untouchable.
Mm,
But that's their world. We are on our own, spilling the tea, so to speak, on all these celebrities, mocking them. P Diddy he's broke.
yeah.
All these characters. That is the function of the humorist, the comedian, and most of those people are gone now. There are pundits in America. Most of the comedians have been bought out, and they've been turned into Bill Maher, Jimmy Dore, Joe Rugg. They're all retread comedians. The reason
Yeah.
being is because the comedians are the only people you can trust in society. To answer your question, it's your funny men and women who are the truth tellers. They are the jesters. They are the court jesters of society, and they get to keep their head. They don't get executed because even the king and the queen want to know what's going on. They want to know the truth.
So
So
we can
that's the
trust.
model I've always followed. Pardon me?
Can we trust Cat Williams?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Professor, if you'd have said no, I would have been really upset because I thought I think you really are a good one. But when it
Yeah.
comes to then Kanye West, he's quite a confusing one to decipher, really, isn't he? Because he
Yeah.
played the game,
Hmm.
spectacularly came out of, not as in being gay, but came out of playing that game, and
Right.
I think has left people quite perplexed. Is
Well, he
he
keeps going in and out
compromised?
of lucidity. We're talking about Kanye West.
Yeah.
He keeps coming in and out, and he's playing. I think he knows what he's doing. He's playing with us. He can't just say, "Hey, I think Hitler was the greatest," and just stay there, right? He'll play with us and say, "Well, I didn't really mean that. I'm a reformed person." And I think he's got the best of. He's found out a good strategy, and I think Cat Williams has found a pretty good strategy of survival. You can survive in this world without being knocked off like Charlie Kirk or John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr. if you find your niche.
Mm.
Got to find your lane, work it, and of course know where all your enemies are from the front, back, and the rear. Study the strategy, and in any walk of life, media, law, education, the culinary arts, it's all gangland. It's all gang warfare. If you understand that, if you understand the game, then it's not going to be a surprise to you. You'll be equipped. And I think children should be schooled on that as well, starting when they're really young. I mean, parents used to tell their children all the time these little cautionary tales. They used to sound like fairy tales, like Aesop's fables, or they sounded like children's story, but they're really instructional. They were moral without being like, waving your finger at. They're entertaining, but they're learning about how to stay away from the big bad wolf.
Yeah.
He's wearing, or she is wearing a costume, and they can put it together. Their little minds are very creative. They can put it together, and then they'll say, "Oh, when they're in the scenario, they say, 'Oh, I get it. This is what mom told me.'" You know.
I'm just going to look at the questions, Professor, because I've got
Yes,
loads
please.
I want to ask you,
Q
but I
and
feel
A.
like it's selfish because I know that there's so many people
No,
that have joined us.
love the Q and A.
Drop any questions in the chat, guys. It's actually amazing though when you break it down and you think,
Mhm.
well, of course, a lot of people are compromised, and you know
Sure.
it. But you don't think Joe Rogan?
He's just, he's a clown. He's an entertainer. He's pretty harmless.
Mm,
Um, he has appropriated the Asian martial arts for himself, but that's what they do in Hollywood, right?
yeah,
Instead of putting a yellow man there, they put Steven Seagal up there, just some fat guy who's like waddling around.
yeah.
They will not put a yellow man in that role. That's going to be a big breakthrough when it happens. That's going to be my movie company that's going to do it.
It is so offensive though, because I did some research into, for example, how things like witchcraft are really weaponized in Hollywood and
Oh, yeah.
distorted. And,
Right.
this is people's religious beliefs. And also you look
Mhm.
at how Hollywood films, they always have the same role for a yellow person, or
Mhm.
it's just so stereotypical. And I can't imagine how frustrating that must be when you see all of these tick box days happen for other cultures and the
Yeah.
overamplification, and yet you're
Mhm.
still ultimately in terms of the public playing the same role decades on and nothing's changed. Do you think that's because they feel threatened by yellow people and they want to
Oh,
keep you way back?
absolutely. Remember, it was the explorers, so-called from Europe, Portugal, Spain, who went to Asia, not the other way around. They were looking for riches going out there, and they found it. And then we have the whole colonial era, and we are in a sort of colonialism 2.0. And there's all
Mm,
these different groups that are contending, and the one that's right now in the big the sight lines of the establishment is China. Not that I'm friendly towards them or am a Chicom myself, as they're called here, but I am the person in the street who's going to be suffering the brunt of what
mm.
the party members in Beijing are doing. I have nothing to do with it, but I'm here and I'm convenient, and I'm not going to let Paulina Luna, representative in Florida, scapegoat us once again. We're not going to sit back and take it.
For
So
sure.
yeah, if there are any investors from Singapore, which is, by the way, the huge magnet for multimillionaires of all nationalities,
I'm
Singapore.
available. Professor, you just tell them I'm available. Okay. I can be
All
bought. No, I'm
right.
joking. I can't be bought.
Well, I would like them to put their Singapore dollars on you. Okay. They have money to burn. The whole casino scene out there, like in Macau, it's
Yeah.
many times larger than Las Vegas. It's huge.
But
This is
also
where young people should be going. Pardon me?
Macau is so ahead as well. I remember, I know of Macau because I went to boarding school with a girl from Macau, and
She was
the
rich.
yeah, she was rich, but the things she had were incredible. And then, by like what she'd show me in year 7 to versus year 11, like we still wouldn't have the things coming out that she had. And it
Yeah,
was just, we were so, so far behind. Um,
yeah.
I've not been to
It's
Macau though,
fear.
but
There's some serious fear, but there's some, like Jewish mafia families who were really big in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. They are in Macau already trying to do deals with Chinese there. One of them is the Adelson family. You know the name Miriam Adelson? She's one of
right.
Trump's biggest
Yeah,
backers.
yeah, yeah.
That's her husband. He's huge in Macau. So I think part of the reason is they want to keep the secret to themselves so that other people will say, I don't want to deal with them barbarians. They're way behind. I just want to go to Panda Restaurant and eat Chinese food. I mean, they're at that level, and it's like you had roommates who were fabulously wealthy. Where did their parents get that kind of money to send them to an English boarding school? That's money. And
Yeah.
they're showing up in the boarding schools now from Asia, from the Middle East. It's the 21st century, ladies and gentlemen. I
Yeah.
mean, I would like to make a movie about her life, your roommate, your schoolmate. I'd
Yeah.
like to like, how the hell did this happen? Yeah,
Yeah.
in
I,
real, not a stereotypical presentation like Crazy Rich Asians, but just real life, everyday hustlers from the East. The
well, I've
Red
got a
Dragon.
question
Yes,
from the
question away.
audience, but I want to ask everyone, please subscribe to Professor Hamamoto's channel. These conversations, truly, I feel we are so lucky to be able to have them. And also, Shaun's channel is incredible for this. And if you want, you can also follow me at Lauren the Insider. You won't be getting the highbrow level of forensics that you will from Professor, but I do bring something, slightly different. And the question that we have, Professor, is
Mhm.
what do you think the Charlie Kirk offer that he could not refuse was for?
It was to own, I don't know what percentage, but I'd say maybe a third of TPUSA. We already know he's a multimillionaire, so he had a thriving organization that was growing. I don't know about now because of all this information that's coming out. TPUSA might be over, but who knows? But they wanted in. It was an extortion racket. They want a percentage. They want him to kick some of it back to him or to them, to these parties. Who they are, what organization they were, I don't know. But to me, it looks just like a traditional racket extortion scheme. It's like the Lower East Side of New York historically is where all the hard men, from immigrant stock from Central Europe primarily, or Irish, Sicilians, right? Lower East Side. It's a Lower East Side extortion racket for the 21st century. They want part of the business. If you had a successful wine distributor, restaurant, a laundry, a lot of mafia people originally were laundry people, right? When in the days before home laundering equipment, they want the piece of the action. They will come and they'll take it from you
Mm.
by force or usually by threat. I don't know if that
Yeah.
answers the question. I can't be more specific than that because I don't know
No, no.
who were the people threatening him.
And then, well, Jane Kendall has said, I'm in the UK and it's not good here either. So I just wanted to add on to that statement and say it's really bad here. What do you see happening? What does the future look like?
Well, I would like to see the agenda that's been put forth by nationalists like Tommy Robinson is a good example to be taken to heart by the average everyday person. This is in Britain, the UK, and to restore who they are as a people. Right? I think almost everybody would agree with that. The ones that don't are in the employ of the globalists who want to homogenize everything, and that's an enemy that's everywhere. It's a global enemy. They're trying to do the same thing in the United States. But I think the best strategy is to stay in place and fight the good battle. Fortunately, England, Britain, the UK has an incredible historical political legacy to draw on to recuperate, to recapture all that energy, the freedom, the sovereignty. So I think it looks good. I mean,
Well,
in
we're
the long
currently
run,
not
the short
really
run,
allowed to even, if we fly our flag, we're referred to as right wing extremists or terrorists. So it's strange times, Professor.
well, you know what? I only wish that I was in London when everybody got out in force to express their political will. against the
Yeah.
globalists in particular, and I would carry the flag of St. George myself. I just would carry it around. They go, "Wow, what is this? What a spectacle this would be!" I might make it into the Daily Mail, a photo. Cognitive dissonance. There's a yellow man waving the flag of St. George. That's the type of street theater that we need.
Yeah. Well, can you come to England soon? And do you do any kind of in-person shows where anyone can catch you talking?
No, not so much lately. It's primarily because of the security, so-called. I don't want to get a real ID and sign my birthright around in order to fly around. But I might someday, once we retake the sovereign countries. I'm going to come over and walk the streets, look around, eat, talk to people. That I enjoy doing that.
You're
I was
so
looking forward to
wonderful.
doing that in retirement before the lockdown. Yes.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like I can't thank you enough. And the comments have been amazing. And, we're so grateful. And Shaun has worked for years to create just an unbelievable community of critical thinkers, free thinkers, and they are super smart, always willing to learn. And, you have just given us a huge amount of knowledge and expanded our minds. But I still will not homeschool my children, Professor, but I will take everything else on board.
Wonderful. Ms. Lunfarrow, it's been a wonderful conversation. You have brought an incredible energy and dimension to the Shaun Attwood network. And
Thank you.
I encourage everybody to subscribe to your channel. I am a regular listener myself. It's kind of painful to listen to some of these personal stories, but we need to. You're giving, offering a forum to people not long ago who were voiceless.
Mm.
And that gives me great cause for optimism. We're beginning to see how the dark aspects of our society really operate. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. And we, the people, have the power. These cretins work for us. We're the boss people, and we will not forget it. And Professor, you are a marvelous, marvelous mind. And no doubt you will be back on the channel very soon because you honestly are like no one I've ever met or interviewed.
Thank you so much. I look forward
Thank
to it.
you.
Peace, everybody.